With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
It's a very wet day here in Florida. Plenty of challenge for a huge field of drivers in the Precision Racing League's GT3 Fixed Series here on RaceSpotTV. Welcome one, welcome all. I'm Reese Gardner, Derek Watson alongside me in the comms box. We got Dustin Ollis behind the scenes bringing you these live pictures. Derek, I love Sebring. GT3 racing is a very typical category you see here, but drivers dealing with the new iRacing weather system for not the first time, but the next of many. I'm looking forward to seeing how they tackle it.
Yeah, wet, wild, crazy, slippery, loose, every word you can think of to describe what's going to happen here tonight at Sebring, as both races probably under the rain. Reese, this has been a pretty wild schedule. I think it's only our second rain race of the season. Let's take a look here. Look at this. We've been to Watkins Glen. We've been to Road America. Last week at Le Mans, it did not rain. Now Sebring tonight, and then 3 more races left. Red Bull Ring, Bathurst, and we're going to finish off at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, the 24-hour circuit, no less. That's going to be a huge challenge for the drivers, especially if weather is a part of that. The Nordschleifer, of course, raining in one spot and dry in another. Very famous for it. I don't think we're going to be seeing much of the same here at Sebring this April the 30th, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot of incidents, a lot of very good displays of driving, plenty of nice action here in the PRL. We'll take a look at the AM standings to start off. Ross Sortino currently with a very nice point gap with Michael Fowler 148 points, only 5 ahead of Sean Provost and Evan McKay, who topped the practice session for this race, incidentally, in 4th spot. So Evan is looking to gain some more points here, potentially have a run at the championship in the last couple of rounds, but it's going to be a big gap to make up.
Yeah, it will be a pretty big gap to make up. Let's take a look at the pro standings and see the difference. It's a lot closer up top. Only 16 points between Jim Feliz and Tyler Graff. And then Tony Costello and Felix Feliz, 10 points apart from each other. And on down the board, there's really only about 60-some points separating 1st through 10th. This points race is still pretty wide open.
Yeah, certainly is. One bad result for Jim Feliz, and that's going to bring Tyler Graff right into it. Tony Costello and Felix Feliz could certainly gain some big spots here as well. Jared Keane in 5th place. That's a name that I remember from a very long time back. Looking forward to seeing how he does in this one. The combined standings, well, they put our first AM driver of Ross Sortino in 6th place. He's all on his own here in the top 10, but could jump up a bit in the overall standings if he has a good result. Jared Keane does not. Looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, it will be cool to see if that could happen. But looking at the team standings, SRTE really is dominating 1st and 2nd place. About 52 points between them. And then on back to BNO Kart-O-Mania Pro at 381. MadWorks at 361. He kind of falls on back quickly. So the team standings seems to be a little bit more, maybe not decided, but a little more easy to decide than the driver standings.
Yeah, I think SRT Yellow up the top isn't going to be facing much of a threat from their sister team, but you look further down the standings, you see there's only 4 points between Doppelganger and SRT Black, so keep an eye out for the drivers from those teams, see whether or not they'll be able to vault up into the top 8 in the team standings here in the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed Series, which is brought to you by the following sponsors. Of course, we got to start with Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products. Just use the Precision5 coupon code at checkout on advancedsimracing.com. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com. You can also get a 5% discount on their products using the Precision5 coupon code. ButtKicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Go to moradness.com. They're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They got a Discord server as well. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. MrHedge.co.uk. He's on Facebook and Instagram as well. And finally, last but not least, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads to become a better driver. Well, we're in our final few minutes of qualifying here at a very wet Sebring, Derek. It's a bit lighter than it was in practice, but it remains to be seen whether or not we'll be racing in the dark. You see that the water is pooling around the circuit already, and Jim Feliz doing very well at the top right now.
Doing a great job as Jim Feliz, and you're right, look how wet it is. You can see the tails on the back of the cars throwing that water up in the air, so that'll be something that'll be a challenge during race time. The drivers were warned during qualifying to keep some distance. This is open qualifying, but the admins don't want to have any kind of incident. And oh my gosh, did David Bush just save that?
He did.
Wow. I thought for sure that was going around. That's an impressive save. That is Hollywood style racing. Man, look at that puddle right there.
Yeah, I absolutely love the iRacing weather system. It's changed the whole dynamic of racing on the service in these cars. It's just brilliant to see Evan McKay making his way through the same turn we just saw that brilliant save from. A technical issue there, unfortunately. Jared Keane, 5th in the championship in the pro class, is doing quite well right now, up in 2nd spot. He'll be very happy with how he's doing. Nathan Jennings, meanwhile, down in 16th place right now, but allegedly on an improvement here, making his way through the Fangio S's and all the way up to Cunningham Corner, staying slightly off the racing line coming into the corner, which is what you're going to see a lot of tonight.
Yeah, that is the key to the rain system. You want to be off of the racing line and also off of the paint, whether it be some of the parts of the track are painted, maybe even off the curbs. Those will be super slick tonight. So we'll see a different style of Sebring racing as the night goes on. But here is Nathan Jennings in that number 4 machine for big racing. And that is the predicted lap time next to his name. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. That's the number up top here. That's the projected lap time, sort of our own little, I guess, AI assistant here, Reese, see if they can get it right.
Yeah, we'll see. Just lost a bunch of time coming out of Le Mans Curve onto the Ullman Straight, and that's one of the worst places to make a mistake because you've got that entire straight to lose time on. David Bush, meanwhile, currently in 10th spot. 2:15.9 is his current fastest lap time. Remains to be seen whether or not he'll be able to improve on that. David was the driver that we saw have that massive save a little bit earlier. And yes, it does require you to be on your toes, these wet conditions, but the drivers are helped out a little bit. GT3 cars, of course, have traction control and anti-lock brakes, and I would imagine a lot of these drivers have them turned up all the way. That's one of the few things you can change in this fixed setup series.
And the benefit these guys have as well, Reese, is that, it rained during the 12 hours of Sebring here about a month or two ago when that event happened on iRacing. So a lot of these drivers probably have some experience in the rain at this track due to that special event. So they're not exactly, unfamiliar. At least some of them won't be, as David Bush is coming around here. And you see he's now going to try to make that run himself. And once again, projected time, top of the screen there next to his name, down to a 2:15.9. This would not be for the pole, but it would be possibly a better time for him.
Yeah, maybe. It's currently neck and neck with his current fastest lap, so let's see what he can do coming out of Sunset Bend. Keep the car as straight as possible, and it's going to be close. It's going to be very close. Losing time on the way to the start-finish line, and it's going to be a 2:16.0. That's a shame there for David Bush, just missing out on improving, but we wait for the last few cars to come across the line. It is an open qualifying session before a single race, so once the time hits 0, you are allowed to finish your lap. Just got to make sure that you get it done in the next 2.5 minutes.
Here we'll see Sully going to make his run through Sunset. And as you said, one of the keys to it typically is getting as far out as possible out of that corner. You see Sully didn't track out nearly as wide as the last car we followed, but up here against the wall, and he'll finish off at a 2:15.506. That would be 0.3 of a second improvement. That's P6 on the board.
Good stuff. Very good stuff there for Sully. Just behind our current AM pole sitter, Evan McKay. Kern de Gale, meanwhile, coming through the last corner in his Lamborghini. Let's see what he can do. Just extend the exit of Sunset Bend a little bit. 2:16.5 is his current fastest, and it's going to be a 4/10 improvement, and that's going to give him 2 extra spots up to 13th place right at the end of the session. Isria Osborne, meanwhile, looking to break into the top 3. Ross Sortino just making a massive improvement up to 17th. Isria, it looks like, is not going to improve. Only missed out by 0.02 of a second on improving there. And it looks like with that, it's the last couple of cars across the line. Robert Jeffries, the last car to cross. And now we just wait for the session to inevitably tick over. Very interesting qualifying session. Let's go through the grid while we have the time. Jim Feliz and Jared Keane, the SRT yellow cars, locking out the front row. Tony Costello and Isria Osborne will start on the second row in their Audis. And then we have 2 Porsches, Evan McKay and Sully Sard. McKay and pole sitter. Starting 7th will be Felix Feliz with Tyler Graff alongside. Michael Fowler and David Bush will round out the top 10. Sean Pro Provost and Jason Finch in SRT Blue and Grey respectively, rounding out the top 12, Derek.
Then we're going to do Kern de Gale, in 13th with Pete Mejia in 14th. Row 8 will be Jared Deploy and Nathan Jennings. Row 9 will be Ross Sortino and Buck Hamilton, 17th and 18th. 19th and 20th, Joey Costello and John Jones. 21st, William Finson will have Lucas Nguyen next to him. And then back there in row 12 is Cretan Carter and Sharius back there in the number 27 car, part of Vulture Motorsports.
Ian Cabana is going to start in 25th place alongside Dale Peterson in the Doppelganger Racing Audi. Robert Jeffries and Ryan Chandler, 27th and 28th. The top 30 rounded out by Andrew Venaro and David Morse. We move on to outside the top 30. Rhines and Kalen will start 31st and 32nd. Carlos Ocano alongside Joseph Carnes. Waldo Walden in 35th, with Dave Peterson starting in 36th place.
And rounding out the field of drivers who qualified, Patrick Cowgill, well known for his Wednesday night Truck Series run, and Alex Wright back there in P38. And let's take a look. Drivers who did not qualify, I'll run through those really quickly here. It's going to be P39, Jay Steffi. 43, Nicholas Johnson. 41st, Kevin Berquist. Scott Jeffries, 42nd. Quincy Carter, 43rd. And last but not least, Andrew Trickett, all the way back, Reese, in P44.
It's a huge field of cars that's taking to the start here at Sebring. Everyone filing onto the grid at the moment, and these are the conditions they're contending with. 87 Fahrenheit track temperature, and well, it's 67. That's a 6, right? Not an 8.
That is a 6. Yep.
Yeah, okay, my apologies. Text was a bit too small on my end. Yeah, it's a very cool track out there, overcast, and we have plenty of rain falling, and it's not going to stop. There is no sign of that rain clearing, starting at just past 7 p.m. in sim time. So there's a chance that we might see this race go into dusk, but 35 minutes, relatively short race length, so I think we're going to be at least approaching sunset by the time we get to the end.
And hey, something cool I noticed about that graphic, if we can go back to it for a second for track conditions, because of this weather system, Reese, look at this. For once in iRacing, the track is cooler than the air temp by 3 degrees Fahrenheit. I've never seen that very often. Maybe I don't think I've ever seen that before the weather system came in, but it stood out to me that the track is cooler. Now, that track being cool sounds like good news. It sounds like, oh my gosh, there's going to be so much grip. But weirdly enough, Reese, in my experience, there's kind of a point where the track gets so cold, then it kind of goes back to being difficult again. And of course, part of that will be tied to the rain. But even on a dry track, there's almost such thing as a too cold of a track.
Yeah, indeed. If you live in metric land like me, that's a 19 degrees Celsius track temperature. So it gives you a bit of a clue as to the conditions these drivers are dealing with. Air temp, 21 degrees Celsius. So, yeah, this will be an interesting start. And not only are they dealing with a very cool track temperature, it's also absolutely soaking wet out there, so there's going to be very little grip available off the start. The drivers are going to have to feel out the conditions here. Those SRTE cars at the front of the field are going to be plowing the way. There isn't going to be any clear racing line just yet. We're going to have to wait a while to see that happen.
Well, and the real problem will be for the cars behind them. Think about Tony Costello in third, Isaiah Osborne, Evan McKay, because that tail, or that whatever you want to call it, that goes behind these cars without water, makes it incredibly difficult to see what's going to happen around you. It's basically blinding.
Yeah, it is. I've done a couple of GT3 wet races shortly after the weather system came out, and have a look at the radar on the bottom right. That is that is constant rain. It is not clearing. There is a light patch approaching the circuit, but I don't think that's going to have much of an effect on proceedings. If you're racing in a full field of cars, I mean, honestly, Derek, I really feel for the drivers starting at the back. They are going to have no warning of any incidents happening ahead.
No, you have to listen to your spotters, observe the local yellow flags that the sim gives you, and be heads up. Maybe listen to the voice chat as well, because it's going to be the only indicators you're going to have of what's happening. And the worst part is when you know there is a wreck, because you know there's a wreck, but the splash and everything's going to make it it's so hard to see. It's going to be tedious. Remember, this is one of the tracks left in iRacing Reese that has the full pace lap. So, or at least we're doing the full pace lap here. So right now we're just up through Tower. That's turn 13. So these drivers have a couple more minutes to kind of find a strategy, get prepared, take a breather, because once this gets green, if you're not first, it's going to be a very, very difficult time to seeing the race, much less racing it.
Yeah, Jim Feliz will have at least that advantage going for him as they tour nice and slow through Jean de Bienne on the way down to Le Mans. Very interesting section of the circuit, that, and considering how much you need to use the curbs in that area generally, I think drivers are going to have a very tough time there. I mean, the curbs will be extra slippery in the wet conditions, not to mention the standing water that we've seen at corner apex and quite a few locations around this place. At the very least, one more chance to rest here coming down the Ullman Straight.
You know, when this is all said and done, Reese, I won't be surprised to see some new names at the top of the leaderboard tonight. I think the rain and the weather is going to be a great equalizer for this race. Maybe some drivers who have had more practice or more experience will be a little faster than some of the veterans here who maybe haven't been able to put that practice in. This rain could change everything.
It certainly could. Fixed series, so everyone is running on the same setup. It's all down to the driver. It's all down to how you tackle these wet conditions at Sebring for round 6 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed Series. Pace car will come into the lane and Jim Feliz will immediately put the power down. The green flag flies and we are racing at Sebring. The spray being kicked up already. Plenty of side-by-side action in the midfield, but Feliz is going to be safe into turn 1. Long way ahead of Keane, who pushes wide a little bit in turn 1. Briefly gives a chance to Tony Costello and Israel Osborne. Ooh.
Well, that rain didn't stop anyone from being 3 wide in the back of that field, did it? They just thought it was a dry track back there. Oh, hold on.
Mark Kalin going for a spin there in the Ford GT number 62. So we already have our first casualty of the night. And that's unfortunate for him, but it looks like he avoided too much damage. He's going to proceed and continue. Look at them going all the way to the inside here, just looking for grip off the racing line. It's rubber on the racing line. It turns slick in wet conditions. Exactly what you don't want. Passes being made in the hairpin there. Felix Feliz dropping positions on the exit. He's had a big problem. He's turned around. That's unfortunate for Felix. Jim Feliz suffering no such issues, and Felix has got to wait for the whole field to come by him. That's a very awkward place to come to a standstill.
At least Felix got it off the track. At one point, he was sort of parked there on the side of that corner in the track. And there's another car off track. So that's our third off track in the first lap here. You know, something to keep in mind that we saw in a wet race in a different series of PRL Mondays a couple weeks ago. This rain could provide for lots of off tracks, which is a bad news for these drivers with that small limit before the penalties kick in.
Yeah, indeed. Got to be driving on your toes here. It was David Morse who was the Ferrari we saw going slow out of the hairpin. He's recovered as well. We haven't seen any big crashes or big damage just yet. Everyone's just trying to feel their way around right now. But Jim Feliz has already come out to about a second's lead over his teammate Jared Keane. The two Audis behind battling hard on the way into Sunset Bend. Costello will go defensive versus Osborne here, and Osborne trying around the outside, but then there's the huge bump under the bridge at the apex of Sunset Bend. He'll transition that into an over-under, but that's going to put him on the outside for turn 1. Sometimes not the best place to be, even in the wet.
Yeah, even in the dry as well, not the best place to be. So we'll take a look and see how everyone does this here. So it's Feliz, Keane, Costello, Osborne, and then your first AM driver in Evan McKay back there in P5. This right here is Said and Fallon. This is back for 7th and 8th. That's a pro and an AM driver right here, Reese. That's one of the beautiful things I like about Tuesday nights. There's multi-class racing technically. Hold on, I'll come back to that. Look at that dive right there. I was going to say, but it's the same car. It's the same ability, the same setup. It's just the driver's iRating. So an AM can finish wherever they want in this race.
Yeah, indeed. iRating isn't always the best descriptor of outright speed. So Keep an eye out for AM drivers potentially out of position. Oh no, that's one of the SRTE cars, Nicholas Johnson, who's had a big off at turn 3, and that car looks very broken. Ooh.
That's going to be a cutting the course penalty right there. That was, wow.
Kern de Gale and the Lamborghini in question. A few other cars I saw going for a bit of a sprawl there at the hairpin. And keep our eyes peeled to see who wins the battle of the Porsche and Ferrari fight. Focusing on the number 22 of Jared Deploy right now. Got Shreyas Venkataraju behind him, and Ventas looking like he's not having a good time. Costello, meanwhile. Yep, that's Costello. He's gone for a spin.
That's Joey Costello back there, and one of the drivers without a team currently and having a hard time. And one thing about this grass has been updated this season, Reese, is how slick it is, how difficult it is. And then you get it wet, and it's incredibly hard to get out of the grass here once you get into it. And unfortunately, Joey Costello just found that out.
Yeah, indeed. One place you don't want to be is the grass in wet conditions. We've already had 2 retirements to speak of at the moment. Kern de Gale, who we saw spun, and also Nicholas Johnson with that heavy damage out of turn 3. They're both in the pits, and there will be nothing remaining of that. We'll see what happened to de Gale here with Sorrentino, and it looks like he was just hit into the hairpin, and that caused a pile up. That is rather inconvenient.
The more inconvenient part was the car that kind of stopped behind him. I think he felt bad that he bumped him, and wanted to kind of stop and give the spot back. But you can't stop at the entry of a corner like that. You just made it worse for a couple cars behind who make contact. That's it's a sketchy place. Almost a full stop there. Here's Patrick Cowgill with Felix Feliz and Dave Peterson trying to run him. That's 31st, 32nd, 33rd. You know, Patrick's had an incredible run on Wednesdays in the NASCAR field, and it's been trying to learn better at the road courses. So this should help him when we come to those road courses on NASCAR.
It certainly should, and he's got a heck of a battle to contend with. Felix Feliz is the car behind him, and remember, Felix started in the top 10, but he had a big problem coming out of the hairpin on lap 1. On board here with Dave Peterson, the Audi chasing these two, and got a slightly better exit than Feliz, but the momentum is with the Porsche ahead as Cowgill will go defensive into the hairpin. This is the battle for 31st place, way down in the field, but there's still points on offer. Cowgill running a little deep here, but Feliz can't line it up for a pass into Cunningham.
No, it's pretty hard to get a pass made there in that kind of spot. That's turns 10 and 11. You come down through Collier here and eventually end our way up at Tower. Now we'll get a camera briefly on the side of that car. A little loud of a camera, but pretty cool shot nonetheless here. We see an attempted pass there on Cowgill on the inside of that corner, but backed out of it pretty quickly here. You know, on the back of this car, Reese, we do see the blinking red light. I will tell you, as a driver, I think they're still hard to see. I know iRacing has made an update to them since the release of the weather system. They're still hard to see, though, in my opinion.
Yeah. You've basically got to dial into your sixth sense, really. That's what Israel Osborne's going to have to do, as he chases down Tony Costello for 3rd place right now. Meanwhile, seeing that, oh no, Quincy Carter has retired to the pits. There's been a big issue for him. Not too sure exactly what happened, but we will see. The replay for the other Costello in the field. It was just a simple running deep at Collier and emerge back onto the racetrack, though he had a bit of a wild ride with so many cars coming past him. Yeah, I had a hard time getting back on the track. It looks like it's kind of maybe kept through the grass or pretty close to it in the next corner. It was hard to tell from that camera angle. We're about 8 minutes in, about 27.5 minutes left in this race. And that's back in Cowgill again. You saw the moment there. There's one of your SRT cars. That's 17. Let's see our next shot here whenever we're ready for replay. We'll get to that in a minute. Sorry, but pretty overall a pretty clean race. Risa, I was expecting honestly a bit more of everything. I thought this would be crazier. What's this here? Oh my God! Oh my! Whoa!
So what?
That's huge.
What you don't see is it looked like there was a car stopped ahead of him on the track, and I think he just kind of slammed the brakes and lost the car. But that was massive. That was scary. Scary ride right there for Quincy Carter.
Yeah, it's huge.
Watch
This
it.
is the onboard. Oh, we just lost it over the curb. Caught the inside curb. Wow, the Ferrari was so lucky there to avoid that. Oh, he did get hit. He did get hit, the Ferrari that we saw flashing past there, but still a very scary incident. You know, aside from that and the crash that we saw at the hairpin on the first and second laps, yeah, you're right, Derek. The race has been pretty clean. The only incidents we've seen other than that are cars that have been losing it on their own.
And I think that comes from the fact that, you know, here we are in week, 7 or 8 of the official iRacing season. Rain's not exactly a mystery anymore. A lot of series have had rain, whether it be in the GT3 series, whether it be in IMSA in the official series, you know, the 12 hours of Sebring. And every time you go out and you race in the rain, you get a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more used to it. And so maybe it's not the overwhelming task that it once was. Let's go take a look at our next replay here and see what happens. This will be Busch here. Reese is going to come around in that car. And,
Ouch. Okay, rear end destroyed. That's exactly the same location we saw him do that massive save in practice. So evidently Tower Turn not agreeing with David Busch. He is also retired for the time being. I do say retired when talking about these drivers, but as we see the onboard there, he just loses the rear end. Just a bit too much of a slide when he was putting the brakes on. There is a chance that the drivers currently in the pits will emerge back onto the track, but they do have to wait for the tow to complete and for repairs to be done, however long that takes. And these cars are running iRacing's new damage model, so there's a lot of other parts that you need to take into account when repairing a car.
Yep, and here we see that Patrick Cowgill and Dave Peterson have moved up in the field, maybe partially due to some of the incidents we've had the chance to see replays of. So just kind of benefiting from the carnage that's happening around them. But I think what's happening over there in Tower, Reese, is sometimes on this track, you know in the rain you have to run an alternate line. You have to stay off the paint, stay off the curbs. But there are certain corners at certain tracks where that just feels like impossible to do. And I think maybe Tower's proven to be one of those spots tonight.
Yeah, as we see, that's Joseph Carnes, I think, making his way through the grass. It's a very inconvenient spot, looks like, on the run out of the hairpin. Meanwhile, another replay. Ross Sortino has made his way off the track too. There's so many drivers making mistakes here. We're not even halfway into this race, and we've seen a good portion of the field have massive issues out there.
Yeah, and so let's first off take a look at that replay that's spooled up here, and I want to talk about the off tracks when we come back from that replay. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that spray. That is blinding. That's what we talked about earlier. And then there's a little contact where actually the car behind was the victim. Usually when you bump someone like that at a road course, it feels like the car in front is the one who doesn't fare so well.
Yeah, it looks like the transition of momentum just wasn't with Scott Jeffries there, and well, he has to park it on the apex and just allow himself to get going. That's a real shame for him there. But yeah, in the spray, it's so hard to pick your braking point. As seeing a visit to the pits for William Fenson in the number 88. I believe there is a pit stop scheduled in this series due to a fuel tank restriction, so he's decided to go for it early, unaware of whether or not there's damage on the car. That might be a factor, but this battle for third is continuing to go off. Osborne and McKay, and now Tyler Graff is going to start joining them, though I notice Graff is having some internet issues there. And it's McKay's internet, I see. So, yeah, Tyler Graff is a little bit further behind these guys right now. But McKay is trying to make himself a part of this. We didn't see it just then, but he almost ran into the back of Israel Osborne.
Yeah, almost ran into the back of him indeed here. So that pit stop a little earlier than I thought it would have been. But, within the range. The thing I was thinking about with the rain racing tonight, Reese, typically in these races, in a sprint race, you don't... Oh, man, who was that? Is that Provost. Sean Provost? It is Provost. Typically in these sprint races, you don't see drivers taking tires because of how short the rain is. But on rain tires, it got me wondering, if we would see a couple of drivers want to go ahead and swap those tires out, because they wear a little quicker than your standard tires do, and Provost has kind of got it locked up there, maybe on the brake a little too hard and spun it around.
Yeah, shame for Provost. He was running in the top 10 when he crossed the line on that lap. Fortunately, it looks like he's avoided too much damage, so he will be able to continue, but has to fight his way through. Oh no, this car's dropping down on my timing screen all the way through. Ian Cabana, it looks like towed to the pits. Goodness me. Now there's a replay for Joseph Carnes, who we saw off before, making contact with, Kalen. And once again, it's the car behind that ends up getting spun due to the transfer of momentum.
I think what it is they're on the brake so hard trying to avoid the contact. Hold on, there's one of Walden.
God. Oh, no.
Man, that was Costello again. That's the second or third time we've seen Costello turn around. But I think what's happening is when they're braking out hard to avoid the car in front of them, you're right, that weight transition is what's throwing the car off. Oh, no.
Dangerous re-entry. Whoops-a-daisy.
Oh, the Connery-matic will not be happy when he sees how William Finson, who was just down pit road, by the way, rejoins that track.
Oh, no. Michael Fowler's spun around now as well. He was P7. So now he's going to fall probably outside the top 20 as another Ferrari spins. This is a chaotic race.
Yeah, now things have turned chaotic. I don't know, maybe the drivers got a little relaxed because they thought they had, found the quote-unquote pace, or if those wet tires are wearing, or what's happening here. But you're right, it's gotten crazy in the last 3 or 4 minutes. Look at this, just looping it around. No one touched them. No one made contact. No one even putting pressure on. Just kind of looped around. I did the right thing here and waited for traffic to go by. And then eventually we'll go ahead and find their way back across the track in a pretty safe manner here. And let's see right here.
Yeah, Buck Hamilton looks like just losing the rear mid-corner as well, and he was very quick to get back off the racetrack. Good stuff. As we come back live, we see a Mercedes having issues. Ryan Chandler down in the last position in the top 20, was a little bit higher than that. Actually, it looks like only lost 1 position out of that. So maybe just a tiny bit slow. Didn't lose too much time. So I think that's pretty much the best you can hope for in this field. It seems like every time we're seeing a driver spinning, they're losing upwards of 5, 10 positions and more.
Yeah, more possibly. So let's take a second, though, to talk about what could happen here. There's a lot of drivers doing what we call off tracks. That means getting, depending upon the spot of the track, either 2 or 4 tires off into the grass or the dirt. And there's some other ways to earn some incident points in this race as well. But 13 of those throughout the race, and you will earn yourself a drive-through penalty on pit road. After your 17th incident, you will be disqualified, Reese. And not only are you disqualified, you don't finish last. You basically don't finish. There's 0 points for you. You can't drop it. And history has proven to us that rain races make for high incident counts.
Indeed they do, and that raises a point for me as we keep an eye on our leader, who's doing fantastically right now, leading by upwards of 3.5 seconds as Jim Felice. When it comes to the cars who we saw, well, we said at the time, escaping off the track, I'm wondering how many of them had earned enough incident points to warrant a disqualification. I don't think PRL has it set up that way, but they could have just decided it's probably best to tow back to the pits and avoid getting too many incidents.
Yeah, that may be as well. So we'll take a look, and we can definitely confirm that post-race and see what's happening here. But already more and more cars are kind of calling it a day, and unfortunately just, wrecked out, damaged cars and whatnot. But here's the battle for 19th through 23rd. So Kano, Chandler, Venaro, Peterson, and Peterson. You say that 5 times fast. Peterson and Peterson. But here's going to be on-board shots with Dale Peterson in a second here, and we can watch this battle.
Yeah, look at the amount of spray he's having to deal with. That windscreen wiper
from that far
actuator.
Back. Yeah, I was just saying from that far back. Like, imagine that much spray, that far back. Imagine if he's right up on top of him, how much worse it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the windscreen wiper motors on these cars must be very well built. They haven't stopped once in the entirety of this race so far. Let's see what Peterson can do to catch up to Peterson. It's a little bit of a better exit out of Tower Turn as Jim Felice sets a new fastest lap of the race. 2:14.0 up at the front of the field. Looks like no one can match that. Even Jared Keane, Jim Felice's teammate, 9/10 slower. We'll keep an eye on this fight. All the way at the back of this train, he'll want to nail the exit out of Le Mans here, but and it's so difficult to try and keep that exit going, especially with the wide curb on the exit. In the dry, you want to use that. You want to put your whole car across it, but there's no chance of doing that in the wet.
No chance at all. And also, there appears to be no chance of this letting up, by the way. I was just peeking at the radar myself, and as we saw in the beginning of this broadcast, there's no hope this breaks. So this is going to be the weather for the next 16 minutes here on track at Sebring. Of course, being in the state of Florida, no stranger to just random amounts of rain happening here or there. So kind of makes sense we would see the rain at Sebring. And here is the battle for 10th and 11th. This is Jason Finch trying to run down P10.
On board with Finch, and there you go. There's your point demonstrated right there, Derek. The spray, the number 27, was practically invisible until they got to the corner. Absolutely ridiculous conditions out there, and seems like Finch having a bit of trouble getting the power down coming out of the hairpin. He's also got a bit of damage, incidentally, to his front left, so that could be affecting his pace somewhat as well.
Yeah, definitely could be. Listen, I want to say real quick, you and I have both been on iRacing for a long time, and top to bottom, yeah, there's a couple small issues, maybe the red light not blinking bright enough, but top to bottom, the iRacing weather system is probably the most polished, well-released thing that's come to iRacing in a long time, in my opinion. Top to bottom, it sounds great, it looks great, it feels like it races correctly, the customization to it, everything, top-notch.
Yeah, I mean, people were waiting for the weather system for a very long time, and iRacing even delayed it, and that caught them a little bit of heat, but it was for the right reasons, iRacing's deployment of this system has been absolutely top-notch, as Isria Osborne and Tyler Graf are our first drivers in the top 10 to make their way into the pits. We'll see what their times are. But yeah, I think the weather system was worth the wait, man. It's certainly been fantastic to see everyone try and get to grips with the system, and the implementation of it, magnificent. I haven't driven a sim before that simulated running through puddles on the track. You can feel the difference in the force feedback when you go over puddles. It's amazing.
Well, speaking of amazing, look at that amazing gap that Tyler Graf just made up there on pit road. Came out basically almost a bump drafting his opponent there. That is going to be Isaiah Osborne. By the way, to answer my question, I asked, did you wonder if anyone would change tires since wet tires kind of wear faster, at least for Isaiah and Osborne. It's Isaiah Osborne and Tyler Graf. The answer was no.
Yeah, for sure. Tyler Graf, 11.1 second pit stop time. Compare that to a 13-second for Osborne. But Graf's pit lane time from entry to exit was nearly 3 seconds faster. So his way into and out of his pit box, absolutely nailed in that Porsche. And now he can attack.
I often think pit road skills are one of the most acknowledged skills in all of iRacing. How you get into your pit box, how you get on and off pit road, the speed you feel comfortable carrying. You can make up massive amounts of times, as we just saw here with Osborne and Graf. So it's always important to practice that, whether it be road course racing or oval racing. You can make up some gaps and possibly put yourself in a better spot here. This is the battle for 13th and 14th on track. Both these guys are considered pro-level drivers in the PRL GT3 league, but they're really going for it here.
Yeah, Tyler Graf is actually right on the back of Osborne and not letting him get away. It seems like those new tires, presumably for Tyler Graf, working very nicely right now. Osborne having a bit of trouble getting used to the conditions again after spending some time in the pits. And we can't forget about the guy that they're racing either, Tony Costello, who was running in third. He's just come into the lane now, along with our leaders.
Yeah, look at 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I saw 5 names, all with the pit indicator at the top of that board there. That will temporarily promote Jim Feliz and Nathan Jennings to the 1, 2 on the top of this race here. And it will have to be 1 and 1 actually, because it will put, I think, Jennings and Feliz ahead of their classes.
Tony Costello had a pretty good pit stop. He's come out a long way ahead of these two we're watching on screen right now. What was the pit stop time for Costello? 11.6, so that's slower than Graf, and also slower pit stop time than Graf as well. Evan McKay is going to come out ahead of those two as well, again with an 11.5 second pit stop time. So these guys are nailing the tire changes and the fuel fill up here. Seems like maybe pitting later was the better move.
Yeah, it does appear that way, doesn't it? Because we're only 11 minutes left. That means we're about 24 minutes into this race here. So we're more than halfway done. Now everyone's going to kind of just try to hold on to what they have and see maybe what, is still available, in these last 11 minutes here. But, we're at a racetrack that for a commentator, it's kind of a breeze and kind of frustrating because, this is one of those tracks that we've been to, 1,004 times. There's not much I could tell you about this track you don't already know, if anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun because also kind of frustrating. There's nothing I could teach you that you don't know about this track.
Indeed. Well, I think racing it in wet conditions certainly brings a new element to that. Unfortunately, it looks like Alex Wright has had an issue. He's pulled off the racetrack and has gone down into the pits. He was racing a bit further down in the field, but keep our eyes peeled on this pack right here. Nathan Jennings still trying his best to hold drivers off. He's got Jim Feliz for very close company down into Sunset Bend. Remember, Jennings has not visited the pits yet. He might be going for it this time. Yeah, he's going tight out of Sunset Bend, and our leader is released. Now, we saw that the drivers that pitted a lap later had a little advantage. They were able to gain a bit more time. I think tyre warm-up in the wet is a bit of an issue for these drivers. Let's see where Jennings comes out.
Yeah, Jennings, part of Big Fast Racing, has really been active across PRL this season, so we'll see how they
that team name,
fare out.
Way.
It is. It's really it's one of those simple names, isn't it? Just tells you what they're all about right there in that moment. There's MadWorks right there. That's Tyler Graf doing a pretty good job as well here. About 9 minutes on the clock here, and he's going to have to really hustle to make a move here because catching Isaiah Osborne and passing him, 2 separate problems.
Indeed. Tyler Graf has been right on the back of the Audi, and it's not been easy to make the moves here. Tyler was basically in the background of the battle between Osborne and Costello, but now with presumably a poor in-lap or out-lap here for Osborne, it's brought him right into the fight. Meanwhile, Sean Provost had a big problem at Tower Turn. Oh dearie me. Left side destroyed.
Yeah, end of race for Sean Provost. Just came in that corner a little too hot, maybe caught a slick spot, and never was able to catch the car. The good news is no engine damage likely because he hit the side of the car. The bad news is the suspension is likely tore up top to bottom from that big. You saw the car bounce. That's how hard he hit it. Well, here's Evan McKay. He's right in front of Isaiah Osborne and Tyler Graf, the battle we were following earlier. So if Osborne and Graf could stay patient, they maybe can catch McKay before they feel the need to battle each other. That's got to be Provost's teammate.
Yeah, that's Jared Deploy and Jason Finch. They are... They were battling for second in the AM class at the time. I saw them falling down the timesheets. They've made contact with each other there at turn 10. And, that's such a shame for the both of them. That is going to promote Nathan Jennings up to P2 in the AM class. Pete Medja up to 3rd. Oh, man.
Yeah, we didn't see it yet. I'm sure we'll get a replay right here, in fact. Let's see what happens to him. Bring him down into this corner. Oh, there's the bump. That's the first time tonight we've seen the bump from the SRT or anyone that affected both drivers. Typically, it's only affected the one in the back. but that sent them both around.
Yeah, and we see him trying to make his way back onto the racetrack, but there's just no gaps. The field is so spread out and there's so many cars, there isn't really a clear window to hop back onto the circuit, so I think he ultimately decided to retire the car. Such a shame. They would have been on for some very good points in the AM standings if that hadn't happened. Well, meanwhile, this is our AM leader, Evan McKay, currently sitting overall 4th. Evan is doing very well for an AM driver here. He's still facing off quite a bit of pressure from Osborne and Graf behind him, but he's pretty steadfast, and you can see that these guys are starting to catch up to Tony Costello. Costello ran a 2:15.5 on the last lap, same for McKay, but Osborne ran a 2:14.9.
Yeah, great lap times all around. A 2:14.9 in the wet. It's pretty solid for this point in the run, so great job on that. And you're right, McKay, Osborne, and Graf have all kind of gotten in line here. Not perfectly, but they stopped racing each other, and it has allowed them to catch up to Costello here. That'll be the last spot they can catch. I mean, now beyond that, you know, Jared Keane is 2.5 seconds ahead of them. But hold on, there's Cretan Carter. He was sideways, but all looks good on that car as far as I can tell.
Felix Feliz also with a problem there too. I wonder if those cars were involved with each other. Yeah, it looks like they were involved with each other, says our producer Dustin Ollis. And taking the old route through the hairpin, it seems. Let's see what happens here. Oh, that's just too late on the brakes. Way too late, and whoops-a-daisy. We missed the exact moment of the contact, but oh, okay. Did Feliz lose it by himself there?
Not sure, but it looks like maybe. Not sure who put that building there, by the way, but that building was inconveniently placed for our camera. We should have a talk with someone about that building later. We'll wait and see. I thought maybe there were two separate incidents. Maybe we can get a different camera angle of what happened. Let's see this here.
Okay, so on board with
This
Carter and...
Oh, nice. Right to the uprights. That's a good field goal right there. Nice.
Yep. Thread the needle, take the old route out of the hairpin there to emerge back onto the track. But yeah, it looks like Felix Feliz, his spin was a separate incident. So again, consistency is key in these events. And yeah, I'm not seeing anyone behind him at the time here. Yeah, just a little bit of instability in the rear, and around he went.
You could hear that. You might have heard it. It sounded like he just got on the gas too soon. It sounded like he kind of got a little eager about getting on the gas and catching his competitors, and just kind of spun those wheels a little too hard, a little too soon. And that helped that car come around. With 4 minutes on the clock, I think it's fairly safe to say that minus some kind of issue, Jim Feliz has walked away by over 10 seconds with this race. But there's plenty of battles here, plenty of hard racing here left at Sebring.
Yeah, the battle for 4th is the premier one right now, and we also see the battle for 9th too. Venkataraju and Mejia making their way down into the hairpin. A little bit faster on the way through for Mejia, but looks like, unfortunately, not quite able to get the run he needs. Meanwhile, McKay still holding off Osborne and Graf. And it seemed, well, I did say they were catching Costello before. They are not anymore. It looks like Costello ran 0.2 faster than McKay on the last lap, but McKay is solidly the slowest driver of this 3-car pack we're looking at, running, again, 2, sometimes 4 or 5 tenths slower than Osborne and Graf. Graf was the fastest of the pack, 2:14.7 on the last lap. And this is the view down the Ullman Straight. You can see absolutely nothing. Just the little brake lights of the cars ahead, and it's close now between McKay and Osborne.
And that's the greatest representation of that point you made earlier about being hard to see if a wreck happens. Listen, if McKay and Osborne were to get involved in an incident up there, Graf would have no idea. You can't see anything. You can't tell where a car is. You're just kind of hoping that all is going well. You're hoping no one brakes early. You're hoping everyone hits the apex as well as they can in the rain, because you'll get the memo a little too late back there if they don't.
Yeah, indeed. And that's another reason why you see drivers moving around in the braking zones, you know. Not only is it searching for grip, but it's also searching for sight, really. It's the only way you can actually see into a lot of these corners is if you go offline and out of the spray.
Yeah, that spray is something that's maybe been the talk of the community about the weather system as far as how accurate it is, how real it is. And we've seen pro drivers and real life drivers like Tony Kanaan have a say in it. So I think that's been the one hot debate about this system here. But I just love the system. I love watching the just corner cameras, seeing how the water just kind of pulls up right there. It tells you a lot about how much effort was put into this system. Speaking of effort, Tyler Graff really wants to put effort into this, wants to get a top 5. There's this thing about a race car driver. We're always programmed to think top 5s are important. Well, here's Evan McKay. He wants to hold on to that top 5. In fact, he is currently top 4. See, Evan, look how calm Evan is. I can tell you right now, Reese, if I was in that car in the rain at Sebring, I would not be that calm.
Yeah, I mean, his features aren't betraying much stress, but I'm sure he's thinking and calculating the whole time, trying to feel out the grip through this very slippery back half of the circuit. Kevin Bergquist was the lapped car they were making their way past. Bergquist down in 34th position, 5 laps down. It looks like he's one of the drivers that suffered damage early on and then decided to go out on track again. As going for it now is Isria Osborne. He is alongside Tyler Graff on the way into Sunset Bend, and it looks like Graff is going to give that up on the entry into the corner. Might be able to come back on the exit. Tries to maintain speed, straighten out the run out of the corner, and he does gain a bit, but it's white flag, and I think Isria Osborne might just have this.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. This here pass to the inside, moves to move to the left. It's going to dig down deep into turn 1. Not the place you typically want to try that. They'll both go through turn 1 pretty well. After that, you're going to get up into turns 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I think turn 7 is probably your next best passing opportunity.
Yeah, it's all about your exit from turn 5 here. Osborne just going wide of the apex, a little bit of extra grip to the right rear tire, and he can launch himself out of the corner. And I think that tells the story right there. Once Graff was passed, then Osborne was able to just unleash his pace. I don't think there's much chance of him catching up to Tony Costello for 3rd unless there's a mistake from Costello. So our attention now moves to Graff here. Sorry, I switched the drivers around. It was McKay who evidently has lost pace once Osborne got past him. Question is, Porsche versus Porsche. Will Graff and McKay come together?
Yeah, you hope not. You hope to see this come clean all the way through here for this last lap. You see everyone kind of getting through a little tenderly through that corner. And now gets back on the gas. You hear the engine revving up. And right now, Tyler Graff's got probably one last shot here to make something happen.
Yep, exit of Tower, very crucial. But even more crucial is the exit from Le Mans onto the Ullman Straight. Whether or not either of these drivers will make a mistake remains to be seen, but Isria Osborne doesn't have to deal with much pressure. Meanwhile, well, there's only one corner to go for Jim Feliz, our championship leader, coming into this round, and well, he has absolutely dominated this race, supreme in the wet conditions for SRTE Yellow. And out of the final corner he'll come. PRL GT3 fixed round 6 will go to Jim Feliz in the number 5. Beautiful drive. Jared Keane is going to bring home a 1-2 for SRTE Yellow. And looks to me like Graff has not been able to get past McKay on the exit of the turn. So congratulations to Evan McKay. He's got a top 5 and the AM class win.
That's a great run by Evan McKay to be in top 5 overall. See a couple more cars come trickling in there. I think that was Nathan Jennings or Sully Said, one of the two we just saw coming by there. And here you'll see the battle for 9th and 10th overall, different classes of cars. And then back there is Jared DePluy and Lucas Nguyen. They're fighting for 11th and 12th here.
Well, who's going to win the battle here? Coming into Sunset Bend, Nguyen around the outside, and, well, he could hook up the exit here, but maybe a bit too much rotation in the middle of the corner. It looks like Deploy is going to come across the line ahead out of those two. That's going to settle the battle for 4th and 3rd and 4th in the AM class. Oh, Felix Feliz. Oh, that's down the field there. And that's in a very inconvenient spot. That's right on the inside of Sunset Bend. Oh, what a time for an incident like that to happen on the run to the checkered. I think he might be stuck.
Does look that way, didn't it? Yeah, look, he's stuck there. He's going to finally get it out. Maybe just being patient, try not to let the field go by. And probably pretty frustrated and embarrassed, and now comes up on track. Here comes Mark Kalin, and he's going to battle here for the last straight. That's going to be Buck Hamilton behind him. This is back for 25th and 26th on the track. Of course, Mark
Kalin,
is, I
of
think,
course.
is he the only or one of only 2 Fords in this race tonight, Reese?
Yeah, he's repping the old Ford GT3 as behind him Hamilton runs wide into Sunset Bend, and here comes Mark to the line. Good job from Mark. He had the spin, turn 1, lap 1, but managing to finish on the lead lap all the same, and bringing the Ford fans out there a little bit of joy, as the last car on the lead lap is Waldo Walden in the number 84. So with that, our race has concluded in PRL GT3 Fix. Jim Feliz was the winner, 13 seconds ahead of his teammate Jared Keane. Tony Costello will complete a 1-2-3 for the SRTE stable. Isria Osborne, meanwhile, 4th. Evan McKay taking the AM win. Excellent stuff for everyone in our top 5, though Tyler Graf really gave him a run for it. Sully Sard, meanwhile, well, we did see him, Derek, have some slides and spins earlier on, but he's managed to recover to 7th. Nicely done.
Yep, nicely done. Nathan Jennings, 8th. Got the 27 car with Sharias back there in 9th. Pete Mejia back in P10. We'll move back here through the grid a little bit further. P11, Jared DePluy with Lucas Nguyen in 12th. Creighton Carter, Jay Steffi, 13th and 14th. Then Michael Fowler, Andrew Venaro, Ryan Chandler, Ross Rotino, Felix Feliz, and Carlos Ocano, all on the lead lap, back through P20, Reese.
Indeed, Dave Peterson, one of our last pro drivers to get to the finish. Cowgill managing to get into 22nd place. Kalin and Hamilton and Walden, the last cars on the lead lap. Costello, Joey, was able to finish a lap down, as was Dale Peterson. And then we start getting into the territory of drivers who had a pretty bad race. 2 laps down for Alex Wright. David Bush, I mean, he started in 10th, and you got to wonder what might have been for him had he not had his massive crash. And then we start getting into retirement territory. Provost, Berquist, Carnes, Cabana, Fenson, Rhines, Jones, Carter, DeGale, and Johnson, all not making it to the finish of the race. So that's going to bring ourselves into the post-race coverage for GT3 Fixed as we move into the GT3 Open Series. But we have a chance to talk to our race victor here. Jim Feliz is with us. Jim, fixed setup, of course, in this series, but it seems like you gelled with it pretty well out there.
Yeah, I felt pretty good. You know, I think the conditions were obviously the same for everybody. The setups are the same for everybody. So it was just kind of a matter of, you know, driving the car, getting the pace out of it, staying smooth, and like you said, seemed to gel pretty well. Really couldn't have gone any better tonight, so very happy with the result.
As you should be. When it comes to the pit stops, what was your look-in going into the race? Because you do have to change things up a little bit in wet conditions. You've got a lot more to think about when it comes to the tires.
Yeah, fortunately I was, you know, in a fairly comfortable position out front. So, you know, the pit stop was just a matter of, you know, come in, hit the pit speed limit. No need to take a pit speed limit penalty. And then, you know, those boxes can get really slick in the rain, so I didn't want to overshoot my pit box either. Had the luxury of just kind of taking my time, keeping it smooth in there, and yeah, it felt like wear-wise, rain-wise, there wasn't really a thought of, you know, trying to go to slicks or anything like that from the lead. You know, I was still seeing fresh droplets on the windscreen there, so just stuck with the same tires, and it worked pretty well.
I must be very happy as well, getting a 1-2 with your teammate Jared Keane behind you there, Jim. Congratulations on your win. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to you next week at Red Bull Ring.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Jim Feliz, race winner there, as we move on to second place. Jared Keane, currently in the comms box, stood by with Derek.
Well, Jared, what a great race tonight. You finished kind of far behind your teammate, but still a 1-2 finish for the team. How does that feel?
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, priority. I mean, that's what we've been talking about from day one, is trying to get SRT teams and SRT Yellow specifically for me, a top points race and run away with it if we can. Of course, it's not easy with this competition. So yeah, super great 1-2 finish.
Great job out there. So you looked fairly comfortable in the rain. Were you one of the drivers who did the 12 hours of Sebring, or how much practice did you put into this?
Ton of practice this week and lots of collaboration. Jim was just lightning fast all week, and when you've got a kind of a deep bench that's making observations and working on it together, it's just super helpful.
So let me give you a bit of a spoiler for what's coming up next. The GT3 Sprint Series is next here in a few minutes. If I told you there is no rain at that version of Sebring, are you jealous?
No, I got second place in the rain.
There you go. That's a good outlook. Well, listen, great job tonight, and we'll see you next week at the Red Bull Ring.
Thanks. Can't wait, guys. See ya.
Brilliant stuff from Jared Keane as we move on to third, Tony Costello. Overall top 3 in the Audi there, Tony. You must be happy with your performance.
Yeah, gosh, I practiced all week, so I put a lot of time into this, and I was making just tons of mistakes the first third of the race. Once I adjusted my brake bias a little bit forward, the car wasn't so grabby, and then I just, at that point, it's kind of hard to make up any time, right? So it's just, hitting your marks, but man, the rain's amazing. It's really incredible.
Yeah, it seemed like especially after your pit stop, you were absolutely in tune with the car there. Seems like pitting a bit later was the way to go in these conditions. Is there any insight you can give regarding that?
No, I just knew that I wanted to be as low as possible to get in and out as quick. And in the past, I have taken 2 left tires at different race courses, and of course here nothing. So I just wanted to get in, get a good entry, get a good exit, and so I was very fortunate. So yeah, it was a blast.
Well, congratulations on your overall third, mate, and best of luck next week at the Red Bull Ring. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks much, guys. Take care.
Tony Costello, third place in GT3 fixed here in the Precision Racing League on RaceSpotTV. Now, Derek, we can move on through into the GT3 Sprint Series, the Open Setup Series. And, I gotta say, I came into this thinking that both series would have the same settings. I was wrong. As you said, Derek, it is bone dry out there. We're going to be seeing a lot more pace out of these drivers.
Yeah, it is bone dry indeed. And the forecast currently says 0% chance of rain as we get through the GT3 Sprint Series. Let's take a look at the points really quickly here. The AM standings, Chris Long leads by 5 points over Richard Saavedra. And then Andy Mercedes is back there with Ray Dominguez and Luis Grulon. That's only 21 points back through P5. And you got Sean Murphy back there, Miles Brown, and others, including Kyle Colbert back in P10. If we take a look at the Pro Series, look at this, a little bit bigger of a gap between Baldy and Cantonio. And then on back, this one's a little bit more open-ended, Reese.
Yeah, a little bit more open-ended indeed. Ethan Bass there in the Ford, only 3 points behind Mateus Carvalho. That's going to be a tight race between those two here. Very interested to see how that goes. The combined standings, well, we do see that there are no AMs in the top 10 in the pro class. So basically no change from what we saw before. Oh, man. I'm looking forward to this. We're currently in the last few minutes of practice. There's going to be plenty of hard, tough racing to go through from this. Precision Racing Blue currently on top in the team standings, and by quite a ways, Derek. SCR Old Men, they are approaching 50 points behind.
Maybe approaching 50 with a team like that. Who knows? Maybe both can be true. Precision Racing Silver back there at 362. CRT's back there. So pretty big gap here as well. Well, let's get to the track and see how qualifying is going. And take a look at the track. Look at that. As you said, bone dry. Barney does not need an umbrella, a poncho, a canopy, or anything as this race as this qualifying is going on. This is more of what we know as, I guess, traditional Sebring, that we've all done in iRacing about 106 times.
Yeah, indeed. I've lost count of the amount of times I've raced at Sebring. It is Kevin Cantonio, who is currently on provisional pole, but only by a tenth of a second from Garibaldi. So there's going to be a lot to figure out in these last 2.5 minutes of the session.
So let's go and run it down real quick. It's Cantonio, it's Baldy, it's David Mendonca, Keith Maines the second, and Marc-Andre Gueron back through P5. Those drivers are only separated, Reese, by about 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, the gaps are very tight here at the front of the field. I've got to say, it's going to be tough to gain those infinitesimal amounts out there. I know that I'm not the best at GT3 when it comes to my own racing. I tend to struggle to get on the pace compared to others. So I can't imagine what these drivers are going through, trying to find those last couple of hundredths to elevate themselves up.
In an open qualifying, it might honestly be just as simple as finding yourself a partner to draft with. There's a couple of long straights here, whether it be the Ullman straight, whether it be kind of that run down between Tower to Bishop. It's not perfectly straight, but a good drafting opportunity. That may be where you find such a small gap of time is really if you can get that little slipstream or draft or pull or whatever you want to call it in your racing terminology from it. Here's Kevin Cantonio, by the way, who is currently up on pole, trying to close that gap in the points we saw in the points board by taking points. Look at it, it's got a 7-Eleven paint scheme on there. I like 7-Eleven. I don't know if do you guys have 7-Eleven in Australia?
Yeah, we do actually.
Okay.
It came in about approaching 10 years ago, I think.
So a fun fact about 7-Eleven in the States, Reese, is some of them are gas stations and some are just convenience stores.
All of them are gas stations here.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, the one around the corner from where I live is purely just a convenience store. There is no gas pumps.
Interesting. Yeah, in fact, I do remember when they first opened, there was one 7-Eleven in the city. I'm in Perth, Western Australia, that was just a convenience store, but I think that one's closed now. I'm not too sure what the status of that is, but yeah, in any case, do like me a lime Slurpee occasionally. I'm tempted to get 40 tablespoons of sugar into my system. God knows I need it. Boris Ovando, meanwhile, up to second place in the overall standings here in qualifying. And we've seen Boris have quite a bit of success in the Super Formula Series that is run on Thursday nights. I commentate that with Mark Kalin. And Ovando showing that he is no slouch in a GT3 either. He's managed to put Garibaldi, championship leader, down to third spot. Checkered flag has flown in qualifying right now. And this is going to be Ovando's last chance to get a time on the board. Is it going to be an improvement? Is it enough for a 159.85? Here we go. It's a 159.91. Oh dear. That's going to be a bit of a sting there for Boris Ovando, struggling in those final moments.
Yeah, and Boris is more diverse than you think, Reese, because on Monday nights, Joey Tebben and I get to watch him race the prototypes. So he is all over the PRL road course series. Here is David Mendonca, currently right now at a 159.971. Needs to improve by about a tenth of a second in order to get that pole position down through Sunset. He's going to come, starts to drift the car out a little bit. Oh, you see the bumps right there, kind of got a hold of him. Needs to track it out further. Those bumps will probably make it to where he doesn't get it. Let's find out.
Oh, he is going to improve.
That is pole. That is pole by a tenth of a second. I was wrong. I thought the bumps were going to hurt him. Maybe they helped him. My goodness.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. I thought he was going to improve to like second or something, but pole position. That's excellent stuff there for David Mendonca. Keith Maines, meanwhile, trying to improve. He is the last driver on a lap right now, and across the line he comes. Does not improve on his time. He'll have to settle for 5th place, as that's everyone done in qualifying for PRL GT3 Sprint. Round 6, here at Sebring International Raceway. Starting on pole, David Mendonca, managing to snatch pole position away from Kevin Cantonio in the dying seconds of the session. Boris Obando will start in third alongside championship leader Gergo Baldi. Keith Maines and Joaquin Lemus are going to round out the top 6. Marc-Andre Garon is going to start alongside Abner Acosta, with Krasowski and Crisp rounding out the top 10. 11th and 12th will be Juan Malagon and Diego Ere.
Moving back into P13 for row 7 is David Dalton Jr. and Jason Allen. Then Fernando Jaquez and Yanni Tavares. And then row 9 is Diego Morales and Chris Long, all the way back there in row 9. Aiden Young, P19 with Luis Grulon in P20. Chase Wilson and Miles Brown back there in row 11. And then Ethan Bass and Ray Dominguez round out row number 12.
Ethan Bass repping the Ford as usual. Emmett Lindquist is going to start out at 25th alongside Chris Sohn, with Kevin Simpson and Rich Calais 27th and 28th. The top 30 rounded out by Mateus Carvalho and Adi Mercedes. And down to 31st will be Oliver Rodriguez Santos alongside Andre Benatti, Devin Brock and Chris Stewart 33rd and 34th, and it's Littleton and Hodgson rounding out the top 36. Only 5 more cars remaining. Kyle Colbert, Richard Saavedra, Douglas Corey, Nestor Santana and Sean Murphy will round out our 41 car field for this race. Unlike the fixed series, everyone was able to set a time in qualifying.
Yeah, it's nice to see when it happens here. So 41 cars, almost identical, I think, within, 3 cars of what we saw last series. So almost the same thing, the same number of drivers, pardon me, as what we saw last time. We're going to get that pace lap started in just a moment. Well, obviously, Reese, there's the tale of 2 cities. There's the, whatever you want to call it. It's the tale of 2 races. This race will be massively different, not just because of the difference of fixed and open setups, but it's a dry track. You can run the racing line. You can get up on the curbs. You can run the paint. You can be more aggressive on the throttle and on the brake here. Massive, massive difference in this race here. It makes me wonder how many of those fixed drivers are jealous they're not in this league.
Yeah, I got to wonder as well. But, at the very least, when you were talking to Jared Keane, he said he doesn't regret it. He got second place. Some drivers just like the wet more because it gives them a chance to elevate themselves up a little further. And would have been a big boon for Jared Keane, 5th place in the championship coming into this round. But that's besides the point. We focus on the sprint series now as everyone is lined up on the grid. The pace car is going to start moving in just a few moments' time, and they can get a chance to suss out the conditions here at Sebring in the dry. It's currently just past 7 p.m. in sim time. If you live in metric land, the track is 28 degrees Celsius, 83 degrees Fahrenheit, much warmer than we saw in the fixed series.
In fact, now we're back to that more traditional look, by the way, 79 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 83 on the track. So back to that traditional method we know where the track's just warmer than the air, just due to, the cars and the tires and being, run and all that stuff. So back to that here. 83 is still a pretty normal temp, all things considered, though, Reese, compared to what we've seen at Sebring before. So still a pretty cool track.
Yeah, still fairly cool indeed. It's, the in-sim date is the end of April, and in Florida, you're getting into the spring, just coming out of winter, so things are starting to warm up. I think it's a very nice middle ground in terms of temperature for these drivers. It's cool enough that the tires will have plenty of grip, but warm enough that you're probably going to have to keep an eye on your tire temperatures and not drive too hard. But plenty of driving hard is what we're going to see in this event. There's a lot more aggression in braking, throttle, and steering, and going offline this time isn't always the best move.
No, but at least if you go offline here, it probably won't be as punishing as it was, a half hour ago when we saw that happening to the drivers in the rain here. But you'll probably see a much more aggressive turn 1. I think it's more likely you'll see 3 and 4 wide down into turn 1, trying to make those passes happen, because often at Sebring, those early passes are more effective than waiting to get them completed later.
Indeed they are. Remember also that there is going to be a pit stop in this race as well, I believe. So the drivers will have to figure that one out. In dry conditions, I would say an undercut might be appropriate. We'll have to come in for some fuel as well. But yeah, I think, you know, GT3's having tire warmers. It's going to be nice to be out there on a fresh set of rubber.
Yeah, we'll wait and see who does what with the strategies and how they make it work and whatnot. But you're right. I mean, every driver always desires new tires every time they pit. It's just a matter of, does it work into your strategy? Does it really benefit you in a sprint race? And those types of questions. Well, here we go. The field's down through Bishop, so we're not too far from getting going here. A little bit longer of a race this time, Reese. It's going to be a little bit longer. Sorry, it's going to be 40 minutes instead of 35. It's only 5 minutes longer. And if it's as busy as the first race, it'll be a very, very fast 40 minutes.
Indeed it will. The pace car now on to the Ullman Straight. David Mendonca is going to have the race of his life here as he attempts to nab the win here from Cantonio, Baldi, Ovando, top drivers in this series. Now through into Sunset Bend. Everyone just getting their tires warmed up one more time before they have to put the power down and go racing. Keep an eye out through Sunset Bend as well. The bumps in the middle, we saw David Mendonca riding over those quite a bit. And they'll certainly be the cause of a few incidents here tonight. Through the turn they come, and we are about to go green for PRL GT3 Sprint at Sebring. David Mendonca gets on the power. The flat six of that Porsche sings across the start-finish line as we are racing at Sebring. Mendonca leads into turn one. Looks like Cantonio is going to secure second. Ovando keeping third spot for now, but Gergo Baldi is right on the back of him coming into turn three. And now the field will fan out to try and get as much space as they can into the third turn. We see a car off in the background, a yellow Ferrari, and another crash in the midfield. One of the CRT cars has spun around. Looks like that's Fernando Jaquez. And Sean Murphy was the other Ferrari we saw spinning. Aiden Young making his way to the end of that incident as, oh dear, that's continued on the exit of turn 5.
Look at how much willing these drivers are to be a little bit more aggressive. Look at all that dirt being kicked up in that corner there. Drivers willing to get up on that curb and try and ride it. If they had done that a half hour ago in the wet, that would have been a much different result. But yeah, green flag is out. We're having a pretty solid run. Let's see what's going to happen to Miles Brown here. Wait for him to come around in just a moment. But already some calamity here.
Yeah, it looks like a spin at the hairpin there. Could have been contact. Our leaders, though, making their way through Tower Turn and already halfway around the first lap here. Mendonca reasonably comfortable in the lead at the moment from Kevin Cantonio. It's nowhere near the lead that Jim was able to pull in the GT3 Fixed Series in the wet. The stakes are much higher here in the dry.
Yeah, much higher stakes here indeed, because you can make bigger moves, which means you can make bigger mistakes. So we'll wait and see how that turns out here. I want to thank you for hanging out here on a Tuesday night here for live PRL action here on RaceSpotTV. See us heading now down through Sunset into that final corner and see who wants to track it out to the wall, who wants to gain time, who can avoid the bumps. These are all questions we'll ask for the next 38 minutes.
First lap is complete. David Mendonca leading by half a second over Kevin Cantonio. Ovando still chasing them down in third, just clipping the inside of the turn 1 apex wall. Cantonio running a little bit wide out of turn 1 as well. Briefly gave a chance to Ovando. We look a bit further back though. On our way in here, Marc-Andre Garon, Abner Acosta, Martin Crisp, and Juan Malagon all fighting over those last few positions in the top 10.
Yeah, this would be a big fight all night long here. And unlike, at least what we saw towards the end of our last race, right now the difference in Pro and Am seems pretty obvious. Our top 10, all white numbers. That means all Pro drivers. So we'll see if maybe an Am driver or two can crack the top 10 before this day is over. Here's Cantonio and Boris Ovando. It's for second and third. These drivers are racing hard, and they're also trying to stay within contact of the leader. So they can't race too hard, Reese. You don't want to get stuck side by side and let Mendonca pull away with this.
Yeah, indeed. This'll be a very tough race for the drivers in the top three. They're so close on pace. They are giving it absolutely everything right now. But at the moment, it seems like Mendonca has the advantage. If anything, Kevin Cantonio making tiny mistakes. I mentioned that he ran wide at the exit of turn 1 at the start of this lap. Well, there's every chance that might happen again. Cantonio, again, getting into the gravel on the exit of the curb. He's trying to extend those corner exits as much as he can, but it's just not working out for him. As we go to our first replay of the race, the run into turn 1 here. Sean Murphy, the yellow car, having a few problems there, going 3 wide, and then on the exit just gets tapped around.
Yeah, really 3 wide at any course, a road course, an oval, whatever, it's hard because even though you know you're 3 wide, Reese, you don't know how wide that 3 wide is, right? You don't know if that 3 wide is right next to you, if it's a foot over, if it's 10 feet over. And so it's easy to kind of drift to a side and make that contact, which is what happened there. So that 3 wide racing at Sebring is not something to talk about a lot, and I think you just saw why.
We're going to keep an eye on Miles Brown as well. This is what happened to him at the hairpin. We saw him spun around, and unfortunately, that's hard to tell. Did he spin on the exit, or was he tapped around? He must have gotten on the grass.
And the good news is no real damage here. I can tell, no contact, no anything as he loops it all the way around the track there, but gets it going safely.
It looks like he had to wait for the entire field to pass there. There's a pass in the hairpin. Meanwhile, looks like Emmett Lindquist and Chris Song were battling hard. We're looking at David Dalton Jr. and Nani Taveras. The battle for 14th place. Dalton currently second place in the AM class, and side by side up ahead. This is interesting. Dalton trying his best here.
Teammates back there as well.
Yeah, they certainly are. Dalton trying to keep Taveras behind him, and yeah, Chase Wilson and Chris Long are the 2 teammates in question there. Trying to sort themselves out. You know, it's rules 1, 2, 3, and 4 of racing. Don't hit your teammate. Wilson, though, trying on CRT's Nane Taveras there into Jean de Bien. Going to have to wait as there's a dive up the inside from the Ferrari of Diego Morales. Almost contact on the exit of Le Mans curve, but Chris Long with the outside line, straighter exit, bit more momentum. Seems to me like Morales might have a go into Sunset Bend if he's not careful.
Looks like maybe Long's going to have a go here and stays to the inside. Thought maybe he's going to try to dive it deeper than that, make a spot up, but did not do so. But right now, this whole field is pretty much a straight line right now. All trying to kind of keep in line and race the line they know that exists here at Sebring. We're already about 7, maybe 6.5 minutes in, and we've seen a couple laps completed here. And there's Diego again, trying to make this interesting battle, and I think there was some contact right there, Reese.
There was tiny bit of contact between them, but in a fast turn like T1 here at Sebring, you don't want that. Morales had to settle for sitting behind Long for a few more corners. This is so intense here. Remember, these are battles in the midfield. These guys aren't racing for the lead, but they're racing like it.
And sometimes that's what you have to do. You know, it doesn't matter where you are in a race. Every spot matters, every point matters. Even if it's not the race victory, it's a moral victory. It makes you feel good to know that you raced that hard, and that's what can happen. Look at this big battle as well. 6th through 11th, Lemieux, Kruzowski, Garon, Abner Acosta, Martin Crisp, and Malion here. That's 6 through 11. They're maybe, 2.5 seconds apart from each other?
Yeah, that's magnificent stuff. And Juan Lemus here at the front of the pack, getting a slightly better exit out of Tower. Kruzowski not quite able to match him, so he'll come under fire from his fellow Ferrari of Marc-Andre Garon. Question is, will any of these drivers make a mistake on the exit of Le Mans? That seems to be where a lot of the passes are made. If you get a poor exit out of this corner, run a little wide, delay your throttle ever so slightly, then you are in trouble. Now, top 5 breaking away from the back, and Juan Lemus trying to break the draft here, snaking side to side. Kruzowski obviously making his presence known with a little headlight flash. He's going deep and very deep indeed into Sunset Bend. Almost rounded around the outside of Juan Lemus, but evidently coming up to the apex, a little bit too much momentum lost. As we get our first pitter of the night, Chase Wilson making his way in from run about this area, and that's a very early pit stop indeed for Chase Wilson. Probably to get out of traffic at this stage. We have plenty of racing left to go here. 30 minutes on the clock. Not seeing much in the way of big passes just yet, but we might see it soon. This is the battle just inside the top 20. Emmett Lindquist trying to keep Ethan Bass behind him. Both of these guys have made their way up into good spots here, gaining 7 and 4 positions respectively. Lindquist still keeping Bass behind, but the sole Ford in the field is looking to make a pass here. Doesn't elect to go to the inside at Collier. Maybe a tiny bit wide at the apex, but driving as hard as he ever has. Absolutely loving the difference in lines here, even in the dry. What can Bass do to get past Lindquist?
Yeah, maybe just have to be patient and see what he can do here. But, you know, your point you made that really stood out to me, and I noticed it earlier when we were just talking pre-race, the sole Ford in the field. How often do you get to say that in a GT3 race nowadays? You know, every now and then we'll see the McLaren come through, but a Ford? I was almost struck by surprise when I started studying the roster last week and found out, hey, people race the Ford here.
Yeah, exactly. Ethan Bass is known for his love of the Ford GT, and he's very sad that the car was retired from official GT3 competition, but he can still race it in hosted series like the PRL. Looking a little bit further forward, coming into turn 1 here, these drivers battling for inside the top 6. Krasowski at the front of this pack. Seems like all of them just on the knife edge right now.
Yeah, everyone's just kind of waiting and pushing and excited to be out here, ready to go here. And now we see a big line here. And you're right, there's small differences in the lines as trying what people are trying here. Picking up some of that dirt here. Now we're back in line. Here's an onboard shot. This is going to be for a pass for a position right here in just a moment.
Oh.
Maybe. Oh, Garon tried and nope, could not get around the outside.
Yeah, flashing the lights at Juan Lemus. I get the feeling he wasn't too happy with the braking maneuver there. Lemus was tracking towards the outside at the time he got on the brakes, but yeah, maybe it'll be something Marc-Andre Garon reports to the stewards. We never know, but you can see just how hard they're racing. They want to protect every position.
Yeah, I definitely want to protect those positions, see what can happen. Well, Reese, I think there's a couple interesting factors about this track that I want to talk about. One of them is the time of day and the weather. This was not a problem in our last race because of the clouds and the rain, but look at this as they come down that corner. You see some sun glare hitting that driver in the face. I'm curious to see if it gets worse here around the corner. Sometimes through sunset or through turn 1, that glare will punch you in the face here. In iRacing, it can make it very, very hard to pass. There's the sun going by. Now, this is not a pure driver cam view, but it looks like maybe the glare is not that bad tonight.
Yeah, it does look like it. You know, the sun is not as low in the sky as we usually see in sunset conditions at Sebring. So we'll see how it looks towards the end of the race. Give it another half an hour and the sun will be a few degrees lower down. Boris Ovando still sitting in third, but he is rounding up Kevin Cantonio here. It's magnificent to see the pace that Porsche is able to extend. Cantonio still not quite. Oh no! Oh, okay. That's
wow, that
that's
is not a parking spot. That's not bad.
No. So Taveras in the Lamborghini, I believe. Oh dear. Well, it's a Ferrari. It was a Ferrari. My apologies. The lines of those cars are so similar, I keep getting them confused. Big crash for Tavares there as there's a big spin in the hairpin for another one of our Ferraris. Oh dear. Oh no. Who's that? That's re-entering back onto the racetrack. Chris Song. Yeah, so Chris Song, I noticed on my timing screen, was involved in a battle earlier. Just having a big problem at the hairpin. Massive spin. He's managed to recover without getting any further damage, but he won't be too happy with now sitting down in 30th place when he was in 20th at the start of the lap.
Yeah, so now he'll try to race hard and get back whatever it is he feels as though he's deserved or what he lost after that spin there. Just a lot of maybe an accordion effect there, different drivers checking up, hitting different lines, and he was just the person who got hit the hardest by what happened in that corner. Let's watch a replay of Tavares here and see what's going to happen.
Oh, Tavares just
kind of came across a little bit, didn't he? I don't know.
It's similar to what we saw at the start of the race down in the field, you know. Driver on the inside tracking out.
There's that glare.
Yep, there we go. Sun's emerged from behind the clouds, and our driver eye view certainly showing that.
So that's an interesting. Oh man, that's an interesting shot though to show you. Hold on, what is that?
Juan Lemus.
That's massive. He got spinned around like a 360. Juan Lemus now turned around here, and everyone is going by.
Oh, it was contact with Marc-Andre Garon, who was having plenty of issues trying to get past Lemus, and unfortunately it was the exit of turn 1 that got them. Our leaders will continue unfazed by that incident happening behind them, but man, just shows how intense the racing is here. Tried to cover on the exit, and well, that's what happens. You have a car getting a better exit behind you, they're going to run into you.
Yep, going to run into you for sure, and then you get that massive damage and have to go around and get that fixed. That's important. That was, I think, for 7th and 8th at the time of contact, so a little bit of contact here as well, and now they've got it sorted out, and all seems well in the end. Here
looks like Artie Mercedes. Artie Mercedes was the car that we saw going slow in the hairpin there, and this is why attempted a move on the Ferrari ahead and unfortunately spun in the middle of the track. Oh no, that's a change for second spot. Kevin Cantonio running wide into Le Mans curve, and he's actually way further down than I expected. He's down into 5th.
Yeah, all the way down to 5th behind Keith Maines and others. Let's see what's going to happen in the replay here. Going to get very wide.
He was very loose.
Oh yeah, he just kept it going forever. So very, very loose, and there, you know, this is still a track, even under dry conditions. There's still some off-track potential here, Reese. I don't think I'm as concerned about the penalties as I was in the rain, but Sebring does offer some off-track opportunities here throughout this track. Let's see it again from the replay here.
Oh, just lost the rear on the way into the corner. The brake bias probably a bit too far back there for Cantonio, and he'll have to recover that. It's a shame, you know, he was running second, running strong, but I did see those tiny mistakes creeping in for him, and it looks like that's the culmination of all of that. He'll have to try and race his way back to the front now.
Yeah, and that'll be a big task to do here, all the way back from P5. So let's take a look back. I think this is our AM leader. This is Diego and David Dalton back here racing overall 12th and 13th, but 1 and 2 for the AM class victory right now here. So doing a great job sticking together, just trying to make something happen. Now, Reese, earlier I said there were 2 factors of this race I want to talk about. The one was the sun. The second, you know, we saw a little bit already, and we saw it in the rain as well. But I think when you're watching the broadcast cameras like this, you lose fact of just how bumpy this racetrack is. This track is not smooth. It's weathered in. You know, it's old, it's classic, it's vintage, whatever you want to call it. Watch here as a lap goes by. Just watch how that wheel's constantly shaking. Watch everything. This is a very tough track to master.
It is indeed. You know, Sebring, of course, former US Army World War II airfield, and they've been racing on the concrete since 1950, and the track likes to keep itself bumpy on purpose. They don't do full resurfaces of the track. They only resurface when it is absolutely needed, and so that preserves the bumpy character of Sebring so much that the drivers go through here, and so much you got to work into the setup as well. Remember, this is the open setup series. Oh no, oh no, oh, big spin for the number 4 of David Dalton, and that's one of the aspects here. Fast corner entries, brake bias too far back, go over the bumps and you're gone.
Well, I'll tell you what, for David Dalton, that was probably the best place he could have done that, Reese. He got it sort of in the grass, turned around, and ready to go. There's a spin in the back. Look at that.
Oh.
That is the 38, the Logitech machine. And it's Colbert, by the way, Kyle Colbert. And I think there was others involved I couldn't get a number off of fast enough, but that was a massive. Like, Stewart was involved as well.
Yeah, Stewart in the car here, and oh wow, okay. Got dumped, it looks like, unfortunately. That's a huge crash.
Yeah, and the difference in the two wrecks we just saw, ironically, is, you know, one kept the car to the inside, that the momentum wasn't that strong, was able to kind of hold the car in the grass. In that case, when there's contact, it's hard to tell. Let's watch the onboard with Stewart again. This will be from the back camera. Watch this here.
So the car comes up, and just a little tap there on the exit, tap again.
It's the follow-through. Yeah, it's not just a tap, it's the lean, the shove, the push, whatever you want to call it.
It's a shame. Well, the battle for the lead is starting to gear up here. It's a battle of the Precision Racing Esports sub-teams here. David Mendonca still holding on to the lead, but Boris Ovando, now that Kevin Cantonio is back in 5th place there at the end of the train, Ovando's started to gear up in pace. A little bit of extra clear air for him, and he's got a teammate to follow.
Yeah, so let's watch this replay again one more time. It'll be, I think, a different angle here. Watch this. Is going to be, oh man, that's how Colbert. He thought he had it saved. He thought he was clear, and that car just kind of self-cleaned its way outside, and nowhere to go for Kyle Colbert. Well, as he said, Boris Ovando is doing well here, up to P2. And about half a second behind the leader. So now what Ovando could do here, Reese, is sit back, keep behind the leader, and maybe save a little fuel so his pit stop can be quicker.
Yeah, that is something, an aspect of these races that we always want to touch on at least once. If you can sit in the slipstream, lift and coast a little in the braking zones, then that'll shorten your pit stop, maybe only by a few tenths, but it's those few tenths that can make all the difference in the end. Ovando slightly faster in Sector 1. Remains to be seen what Sector 2 is going to bring, but Ovando looking the quickest out of the top 5 right now. Was the fastest of them. 2:48 is the time for him. As pit stops are starting to happen in the midfield, we've got Jeremy Littleton, Andre Benatti, and Chris Stewart making their way into the lane. And looks like pit stops are running around about 10 or 11 seconds, same as what we saw in the fixed series.
Yeah, in this case, it's the same car, same gas tanks and everything. So compared to other series we do in PRL, where it's different cars and different races, really shouldn't be any difference here in how the cars are treated. But just past the halfway point, so not surprised to see the pit stop starting. But now the question will be, is Ovando happy to sit behind the leader? If not, he may try the undercut. He may try to pit a lap early and find himself some clean air, pardon me. But right now, this Precision Racing Blue driver seems content in P2.
Yeah, just sitting behind, just waiting for the opportunity. And once again, you see the bumps demonstrated there. I think they demonstrated no better than Sunset Bend, right? You know, you're coming under the bridge. You got the massive leap that you have to take at the apex, and then the bumps on the exit as well. I find it amazing that these guys are able to maintain the pace they do without just flying into the wall at every opportunity.
Yeah, and I think Sunset is the best example because it's so wide, it's so long, and it really looks like it should be a simple turn. But those bumps really make it anything but in that moment. Well, here we go. Once again, still, it's 1 and 2. It's David DeMonica and Boris Ovando. And coming around here. Look at this battle for 3, 4, 5, though. This is going to be Baldy, Keith Maines, and Kevin Cantonio back in that 7-11 car. But this is also now 6, 7, 8, since Garon is Abner Acosta and others involved in that battle.
Yeah, Daniel Krasowski was ahead by a bit more of a margin before. It seems like Marc-Andre Garon is looking very angry and on pace right now. Trying to get the move done, but has to keep an eye out for Abner Acosta behind in the Precision Racing Esports Porsche there. Easy does it coming into Tower Turn. Who gets the best exit out of this very difficult turn that widens in the middle. Pass for the lead, meanwhile. Boris Ovando has gotten past David Mendonca.
Well, I guess he wasn't happy to sitting back in P2. He decided he wanted to make it happen and did right there. Got around him through that corner and now is trying to put a gap on. Now the question I have is Ovando, or not Ovando, yeah, is Ovando going to come this time? That would sort of be the ultimate move, would be to patch the lead and then pit on the same lap.
Well, we saw that Mendonca ran wide in Tower Turn and Ovando went for it. It looks like Mendonca just blended out of the throttle to allow his teammate through. Half mistake, half tactical maneuver there, I think. So now, the Precision Racing Esports cars still 1 and 2 at the front of the field, but Ovando not going for the pit lane just yet. Looks like these guys at the front are going to be leaving it as late as possible.
And in a way, the best pass those two could have orchestrated, even if by accident, because it was a quick pass, it was sudden, and it's done. There was no side-by-side racing, there wasn't contact, and so it kept that same value, you know, back to the field. Here's some more pit stops happening, by the way, up and down pit road. So you see, that's Ethan Bass, our sole Ford GT3 on pit road. So you'll see some cars are coming down, so this is where that cycle begins. It'll take a couple minutes before we're ready to see where the leaderboard actually stands.
Yeah, indeed. Everything's jumbled up at the moment. Krasowski still trying to fend off Garon for 6th spot here. We haven't seen any of our leaders come into the pit lane just yet. It's pretty much everyone inside the top 10 that's still on the same set of tires they started, still on the same fuel load. So keep an eye out to see who's the first to blink out of this group.
Yeah, that's the question, right? Who's willing to wait longer, or who wants to get in here, maybe find some clean air. But here's a beautiful battle right here on board. This is Malignon chasing down Crisp for 9th and 10th right here. And I'm with you. I would probably rather pit now and have clean air in front of me. But sometimes you're scared to do something different. You just want to follow the leader when you're in that car. But I would, if I was Malignon right now, what's the harm in pitting? Find some clean air, Reese, and see if you can run your own laps versus worrying about Crisp's braking points.
Yeah, that is the question. Maybe a slight counterpoint. Malagon far enough behind that maybe he doesn't have to worry too much about that. Maybe he wants to sit in the slipstream a little bit more, save a little bit more fuel, as we actually do see our first pit stops from the top of the field. Mendonca, Baldi, Maines, and Garon all into the lane. Ovando is going to stay out for another lap here. Cantonio will also stay out. He's going to try and get some clear air and a couple extra fast laps. But the question is, will the undercut or the overcut be the way to go?
Yeah, we'll find out. And that's sort of the problem of being the leader sometimes, too, for Ovando, is when that pit road decision is made, you know, they're just going to do the opposite of you. Had Ovando pitted, they all probably would have went to the outside and did the lap. But hold on, there's a battle off at pit road. How often do I say that is Sebring? That's the 55, and someone else I couldn't get a number on.
Baldi, that's Gergo Baldi.
Baldi, okay.
Got a better run out of the pit box than David Mendonca did. Way better. He was right on it. Excuse me. Beautiful stuff. So that puts Baldi in effective 2nd at the moment. Be interesting to see what the pit stop's like for Ovando. We'll compare pit stop times briefly. Mendonca, 1.2 seconds slower in the box and a full second slower from entry to exit. So
not fully surprising,
though, the position was made.
He would have burned the most fuel in that run. So I'm not completely surprised. he needed a longer pit stop than the other drivers because they all could have saved a little bit of fuel behind him. When you are the leader, it's much harder to save any fuel.
Yeah, indeed it is. You got to try and keep up that leading pace while trying to manage your fuel. It's nigh impossible. Well, in any case, the Ferrari of Gergo Baldi is now going to split the Porsches of Boris Ovando and David Mendonca. Here is Ovando, and he's going to go for the pits this time now.
Yep. Don't
yeah.
speak.
Cantonio's going to follow him in.
So this should pretty much wrap up the cycle, I do believe. This should be the last of it as far as I can tell. So now the question will be, where does Ovando cycle out? He's going to come down pit road here and get that repair, or not the pit road, get the work done, the gas and everything. Now, here is the rest of the field coming down through sunset. So we'll have to keep an eye on Ovando, still in the pit box as of right now. Look at the time on the top of the board. He's already out.
That's a quick stop. That is a very quick stop for Ovando. He's going to come out with a sizable margin over everyone else. Look at that. That's amazing. 10.2 second stop for Ovando. 33 seconds lane time.
You're right. That gap is amazing. It's almost 2.5 seconds is what it is right now. 2.7 to be exact between Baldi and Ovando. And that difference of almost in the box the same, and the time down pit road is the same, but the difference would be probably Ovando to others. I think would be different. But yeah, you're right. It's got to be the in lap, and wow.
Yeah, absolutely nailing pit entry, and combine that with the guys behind maybe not nailing the outlap all that much. Remember, these two here, Mendonca and Baldi, were side by side coming out of pit lane, so that would have cost them even more time, not getting the most efficient exit.
Yeah, not getting the right exit or having to battle with others. As you see the battle happening here, my goodness, that was dangerous between Mendonca and Baldi here, and almost danger right there at the 10-minute mark left in the race. Well, the track's going to cool off a little bit, Reese, here as we go on. The sun's coming down. It's, dropped a little bit here, and it's going to get a little quicker on track.
Indeed it is. Not seeing any change in the track temperature, but might come down by a degree. We'll have to wait and see, as the defense is now on for Gergo Baldi, the championship leader coming into this round. Needs every point he can get. Jeremy Littleton, meanwhile, had an off at the hairpin, and here's how it happened. He just went a bit too deep and then got tapped on the exit. Unfortunate for him there, but there's space for everyone to make their way around him.
Yeah, felt like maybe the driver behind him didn't anticipate him going wide, so they thought, well, I'll go wide. Oh, look at that. This is a pit stop here for
Mateus Carvalho.
Mateus Carvalho, yeah.
That's his first stop, so
I
didn't
realize
it very late.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was still out there. I apologize for that. It just kind of caught me off guard. But here is that battle we've been kind of focusing on. There's Ovando. There's the battle to second, third, fourth, and fifth on your screen. It's that now 3-second gap we're focused on. It's hard to think, Reese, that these guys are going to close that gap here unless Ovando misses a corner somewhere or something.
Yeah, and that's very unlikely. From watching Boris race in not only Super Formula but also VCO Infinity last month, he certainly got what it takes to consolidate a position when he's in it. Keeping an eye on this battle for second and the battle for fourth as well. Looks to me like Cantonio managed to leapfrog Keith Maines in the pit stop cycle, so that's an extra little saving grace for him after his unfortunate error earlier on. But a podium is still looking like a very slim possibility, probably too slim for Cantonio's liking.
Yeah, who knows what could happen here with that 7-11 machine. We'll see if he can find his way up here around the others, and just it seems impossible in that spot. You're just trying to question yourself in the car. What can I do different? How can I make up time? But man, when those cars in front of you are snaking, that surprises me sometimes to see that happen. If I was Cantonio, I would have stood still and let my draft you know, propelled me. I would not have tried to follow their snaking line.
Yeah, it always confuses me a little when I see drivers do the very aggressive weaving as further back in the lap. It's the battle for 22nd. Dalton and Young together here for 23rd place. They've got a very damaged car up ahead of them. Diego Era, who has missed his front bumper. I do see that his... I did see him falling down the timing sheets a little earlier. But, yeah, it must have been a big crash for Diego. He's going to stay out on track, but the pace that he's losing right now, these guys might very well catch him up.
But let's go take a look at that replay first off and see what happened to cause that bumper to be missing. And I'm going to come back and talk about Aiden Young afterwards. Let's see the replay here. Oh, got
tapped
bumped
around,
right there.
parked in the middle.
Going to get hit here.
Oh. Okay.
That's
a
what
big
caused the
incident
bumper to
there
come
that
off.
we missed.
Kind of ripped it right
Yeah.
off.
Indeed.
So, coming back live here, I want to point out, by the way, that is uncharacteristic for Aiden Young in that Fierce C4 machine to be that far back in the field. Aiden's had a lot of great success on Monday nights. Did a great job last Tuesday night, in fact, and so I'm very surprised to see him back here in 24th in this moment. Probably not thrilled with how that 727 machine is performing.
Yeah, he's down 5 spots. He had an incident earlier, I imagine, and David Dalton down 10 spots. What that tells you is that there's a lot of drivers who have actually made great gains in this race as we enter the final 5 minutes. Aiden, remember, started in the pits, okay? That's... I did see him approaching the lap 1, turn 3 incident with great speed, so that explains that. Keep our eyes peeled here on the battle for 6th spot, because Marc-Andre Garon is now holding on to it, and Abner Acosta right on the back of him. But I'll briefly talk about drivers that have gained a lot in this race. Most positions gained in the entire field is Oliver Rodriguez Santos. He's up 12 spots into 19th. And then we have a whole lot of drivers who have gained 10 spots. We have Richard Saavedra, Emmett Lindquist, and Ethan Bass. Ethan currently up into 13th place. He'll be very happy with his performance so far. But also very happy should be Marc-Andre Garon. Despite his incident earlier, he's certainly recovered well and should be on for a good finish unless Abner Acosta has something to say about it.
Yeah, also, by the way, I just want to give a quick shout out to Kevin Gibson in 16th, up 11 spots as well. So don't want to go without mentioning him in that list as well. Abner, of course, here known for his road course prowess and wants to see if he can get around Garon here for P6 as this race ends. Whenever it feels like we take a NASCAR vehicle to a road course race, it feels like the field's kind of staring at Abner to see how he does it and see what they can learn from him.
Yeah, Abner, a bit of a road course specialist when it comes to stock car racing. I remember commentating on his run in the Truck Series a couple of years ago. It was a very nice run from Abner Acosta. Certainly learnt a lot about ovals there, but he is known for his road course shenanigans, and I bet Marc-Andre Garon is looking over his shoulder at every single corner exit here to see what Acosta's doing. On the exit of Le Mans here, run out as wide as you dare to extend the run. Get on the power a little bit earlier. Acosta in the draft down the Ullman straight. Not much pressure from behind. Daniel Krasowski and Martin Crisp are basically running their own race behind, but Abner Acosta has the momentum. Isn't quite able to get alongside into the final turn, though.
No, and Abner's quickly running out of time because with only about 3 minutes on the clock here, you're probably only talking 2 more laps here to get around. So, you know, it's all about where the leader takes the line, but still, Abner's got to be ready to make a move like now. He should be dipping down into turn 1 and trying to make something stick, but nope. For the moment, he's going to stick right there and set it up later. But time is quickly ticking, ticking, ticking into the future.
Indeed it is. This is one of the places where you can take big advantage over your rival if they make a mistake, and it looks like Garon, mistake-free for the time being, used a bit more rotation on the exit in that Ferrari, so Acosta not able to gain any kind of advantage on the way down into the hairpin. Is there going to be a dive, though? He's having a look. He's having a look. Garon saw him coming from a mile back and went wide just to avoid contact there. That was almost a huge incident.
Almost a huge incident indeed back there, as now you see Corona, I think, just wanted to be safe, wanted to get around there. This is right here, the 44. He just spun in the back of that shot a second ago. I saw and could hear it happening from the broadcast cameras. Not sure if we'll get a shot of that in the next 2 minutes, but a big spin there for Olivier back in the 44 behind Acosta in that moment. Here it is. Let's take a look at it here. It's got up on the dirt, got it in the grass, and it's kept going. Oh. What he was doing is he was doing his best to try to keep it off the track to avoid any traffic and not mess up someone's race, I think.
Yeah, he almost made it back onto the racetrack, but unfortunately a lot of bumps in the grass there. Aiden Young, oh no. The number 4 of David Dalton spinning there. Managed to save it. Amazing stuff. He's obviously not going to be too happy with how that went down. But the white flag is out. Boris Ovando, still leading by 3 seconds, is on his way to victory. It's going to be difficult for Gergo Baldi and David Mendonca to catch up to him as the rest of our field moves across the line. Keeping an eye on Marc-Andre Garon here, who's still got Abner Acosta behind him, but Krasovsky has managed to gain a bit here on this lap, and he's going to gain more as Acosta runs wide on the exit of turn 1. Turn 3 is the braking zone here. Will the Ferrari be able to do it? Oh, a little bit of hip and shoulder, but Krasowski is through.
Yeah, did a great job getting through right there. And so that's a great pass here on the last lap. That puts Acosta back to P8. And now let's see if Acosta can find a way to maybe make that pass back here. Meanwhile, Baldi and Mendonca back there. Now Cantonio and Keith Maines. This is 2, 3, 4, and 5 on track. 2 different battles happening in this moment.
Yep, very intense. The podium will be decided. 4th will be decided in the coming moments. But it all comes down to Tower Turn and the exit of Le Mans. That is, those are the main points where you're going to be seeing some big changes. Technical issue for David Mendonca there. Had to back out, and it looks like he isn't going to have much of a run here on Gergo Baldi. One more replay before the finish. And we'll see what happened here to the number 4. Side by side on the way through Collier, and trying to maintain the position there was Aiden Young. Just shoved him out of the way there.
I mean, in a sense, you can almost say Aiden Young had no track left. Like, he was up against the curbing. You're not really sure where he's supposed to go. I'm sure there'll be some differing opinions on that, but I mean, in a way, he'd done everything right. He was up against it, short of mowing the grass. Don't know what you wanted from him. Here's the final corner. This is 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's Baldi back there. And that is your race leader, Boris Ovando, and he is victorious at Sebring.
Brilliant drive from Boris Ovando. Gergo Baldi is going to hold off David Mendonca, our pole sitter. Cantonio will finish 4th ahead of Keith Maines, and Krasowski will maintain the position over Acosta to get into 7th spot. He should be very happy with the move that he made to secure that. More battles being sorted out throughout the field. Looks like Ray Dominguez almost has a run on Kevin Simpson in the BMW coming up to the line, but not enough space to get it done there. And further back, Devin Brock trying to get 25th place from Oliver Rodriguez Santos, but the wider exit out of Sunset Bend is going to give it to him, and Devin, with a compromised exit, is going to lose another position to Chris Sohm, ultimately coming across the line in 26th. Last few fights, it looks like Nestor Santana is going to hold off Jeremy Littleton. No, Santana's out of fuel. Santana running out of fuel to the line, and Jeremy Littleton will just snatch 32nd place.
That is unfortunate. That's those fuel calculations you try and make to save yourself some time, and then it comes down to that in that moment. That's heartbreaking to see in that moment.
Certainly is. And we have a few stragglers further back in the field. Sean Murphy is the one that we're looking at here. And the number 35, Murphy, started in the very last spot, and he certainly had a lot of adventures in this race. But Due to retirements for Stewart, Curry, Benatti, Colbert, Lemus, and Taveras, he will ultimately manage to get all of those positions, and a 35th place finish will be on the cards for him here. Just keep it safe, keep the car moving forward, and results will ultimately come to you. So, final run to the line there for the number 11. We can go through our results for PRL GT3 Sprint. Round 6 here at Sebring. It went to Boris Ovando. 4.2 seconds was the gap in the end over championship leader Gergo Boldi. David Mendonca completing the podium. Cantonio and Mains round out the top 5. Garon might have a couple of clouds hanging over him after the incidents he was involved in the race, but should still be happy with a 6th place finish. The top 10, all Ferraris and Porsches, Derek. It's easy to see which is the preferred cars here.
Yeah, easy to see indeed. Let's go back to P11 on the board, and there you will find Jason Allen, and then Diego Morales, Ethan Bass, and Chris Long, followed by Emmett Lindquist, Kevin Simpson, Ray Dominguez, Rich Kille, Fernando Huaquez, and then Diego Eri back in P20.
Luis Gurion finishing in 21st place. Aidan Young and David Dalton, we saw them coming together in the dying laps. Dalton only losing one position really out of that to Mateus Carvalho, who was the last car to take his pit stop. Devin Brock, we saw, just racing his way around and unfortunately losing out to Chris Song and Oliver Rodriguez Santos. Artie Mercedes will round out the top 30 with a spin along the line to round out the top 30. Then we go to the drivers that didn't have as good of a race. Sean Murphy, of course, the last car to finish. He was nearly a full lap behind the leaders, but managed to complete the lead lap. And we have retirements for Chris Stewart, Douglas Corey, Andre Benatti, Carl Colbert, Juan Lemus, and Nani Taveras. Big shame for all of those guys. They won't be getting much in the way of points out of this one, but big points on the line for Boris Ovando, who's going to join us for a quick chat. Ovando, excellent job. Win from 3rd. It seems like you got the majority of that time in the pit cycle. Seems like you nailed the in-lap and out-lap.
Yeah, I got a chance to save a lot of fuel behind Kevin and David. David was doing the heavy lifting. We were trying to pull from Gerger, and so he couldn't save any fuel, and I was lucky I was behind in the train and saved a bunch and made it count.
And you certainly did. Big points on offer for you here at Sebring, and I think that obviously you're not fully in the top of the standings with the no start at round 1 and a DNF at the last round, but still a few more rounds to go. You might be able to break further into the top 10 from there.
Yeah, I hope so. I was really disappointed at Le Mans. I was on pole and a few slowdowns and an incident, and there's just frustration levels, and so yeah, it was tough. But it's nice to bounce back, and I'm gonna be here for the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to it.
As you should be. Congratulations on your win, Boris, and we'll hopefully get a chance to chat to you next time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Boris Ovando winning here at Sebring. In 2nd place on the road, it was Gergo Boldi, championship leader, coming into this round, Derek.
Well, Gergo, you piloted that 113 machine up to P2 tonight after starting in P4. What do you think led you into getting those couple of spots? Gergo, don't hear you, by the way. I'm not sure if your mic's muted or...
Oh yeah, my mic was muted, sorry.
There you go. That's
Can you hear
okay,
me
no
now?
big deal. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, good day everyone. Yeah, I messed up the quali a little bit, but Ferrari was lacking a little bit of space, so yeah, I'm pretty happy to take P2 at the end. I could save some fuel in the traffic in the first stint, and then a quicker pit stop helped me to get to P2.
So I don't know if you saw the first race, because I know you guys were practicing. The first race tonight for the fixed series, they had to deal with a little bit of rain in their race. Are you happy or sad that this was a dry race?
Doesn't really matter actually. I did most of my laps in dry conditions, so probably I'm a little bit happier that there was no rain tonight, but if it comes, it comes. So yeah, it's same for everyone. So I would be... Yeah, of course, I'm always happy if something unexpected comes, but yeah, it was fine like this, I think.
All right. Well, listen, well, great job tonight, and we'll see you next week at the Red Bull Ring.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week. That's Gregor Baldi finishing P2 tonight, Reese.
Indeed. And last of the pro class to join us is David Mendonca. Brilliant pole position, David. You snatched that in the dying moments of the session. How did that feel?
Oh, that felt great. And that was like 100% like a team effort, which is great about the PRE. You know, Boris doing the magic clicks and then me stealing draft off teammates and just snuck one in at the end.
Yeah, the change for the lead between you and Boris looked a little bit knife edge there. You ran wide in tower turn. Was that a tactical decision to bleed out of the throttle and let Boris through?
I mean, I was pushing so hard. I was kind of above my pay grade right there because we were trying to get away from Baldy. And I wasn't able to save, and I was pushing. It was just a matter of time before I made a mistake, and it was a pretty big one. And Boris was right there to capitalize.
Well, you still managed to finish third in the end. Great battle with Baldy to finish off the race. So, podium on the cards for you, and you must be satisfied.
Oh, I'm ecstatic. I'm smiling still. I can't get the smile off my face.
Excellent stuff. Well, David Mendonca, congratulations on your podium. Hopefully we'll catch you next time.
All right, thanks, guys.
Brilliant stuff there from David. And we also have, Derek, our AM class winner, Chris Long, in here with us too. Brilliant result there.
Yeah,
Chris,
thanks.
you won. Yeah, so Chris, you won the AM class. Good job tonight. How was it out there?
Oh, it was for sure hard. Still sweating. No, it was a good race, everybody. I mean, it was pretty clean overall, I think. If I had some contact with you guys, I didn't obviously mean it. So, yeah, good race for everybody.
So, next week is Red Bull Ring. What's the expectations there?
I've struggled there in recent past. So, we'll see. Good setup, you know, good car for that track. So, yeah, hopefully it'll be another successful night, just like tonight.
All right, well, listen, congrats on the AM class win, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. That's Chris Long, your AM class winner.
Indeed it is. And that's going to conclude proceedings for tonight in the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series. Very happy with the racing this round, Derek. It was certainly a very big night, but we go to the Red Bull Ring next week. I'm interested to see how things go there. Might still be the possibility of rain in either class, not too sure as things stand, but it's going to be a nice straight track, plenty of overtakes possible into the hairpins.
Plenty of overtakes possible. A well-known track with a lot of drivers due to it, being used in the races it is in real life. So we'll see what happens. It starts next week, same night, same channel, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and I think Arjuna and Dylan Coyle will be back with you on the call for that event.
Indeed they will. Mark it in your calendar and join us next week on RaceSpotTV. Once again, I'm Reese Gardner, Derek Watson, alongside me in the comms box, Dustin Ollis producing behind the scenes. We really appreciate your patronage here, and we will see you next time.